Welcome to the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. Please note any website or email that I mention will be posted in the chat box. All BACP offices are open to limited members of the public. Masks are required in all BACP facilities. For those seeking business licensing assistance, we strongly encourage the processing of licenses and permits online. Business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicagobusinessdirect.org, or you can call 312-74-GO-BIZ. If you are part of the BACP certificate program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/businesseducation. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'd like to turn the webinar over to Glenn, Assistant Commissioner from the Chicago Department of Aviation.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Geraldine. So welcome to our fourth and final 2021 Concessions 101, Doing Business at the Airport. It's been a busy year, and we look forward to 2022, and we're going to be very busy with additional RFPs coming online. So today's agenda topics are the following, and they will be presented to you by the CDA concession staff. So we'll talk about O'Hare operations, O'Hare concessions program, the ORD 21 expansion, Midway operations and the Midway concessions program. And then we'll talk about how to operate a concession and then the elements of a concession, and then some resources that will help you if you're interested in pursuing a concession or getting any type of certification that is needed for our program. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Wright, who is going to talk about operations at O'Hare International Airport. Mark?
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning to all. As Glenn stated, I'm Mark Wright, one of the 5 project administrators for the CDA Concessions Division. This morning I'll be providing a brief overview of airline operations, and then I'll move into the concessions program. O'Hare Airport is served by approximately 50 of the world's leading airlines and their partners. Major airlines include United Airlines and their Star Alliance partners, American Airlines with One World partners, and Delta Airlines SkyTeam. O'Hare also has multiple non-aligned airlines, as you see on the bottom of this slide. In 2019, and I'm talking more specifically about pre-COVID, there were over 105 million passengers that traveled through O'Hare and Midway airports. Of that 105 million passengers, approximately 84 million of them traveled from or through O'Hare. In 2019, O'Hare set a U.S. record for most takeoffs and landings, totaling a little under 920,000. Also in 2019, Midway Airport had over 20 million passengers and over 232,000 takeoffs and landings. O'Hare and Midway airports have direct and nonstop service to approximately 275 cities around the world. Over 50% of O'Hare's passengers have connecting flights and never leave the terminal. O'Hare is the only U.S. airport that has flights to 6 continents, and O'Hare is the most connected airport in the U.S. and second in the world. Here's a big picture of O'Hare Airport. O'Hare has 195 active gates at the terminals. Starting with this slide going from left to right, The two parallel buildings on the left are Terminals 1. The next section over that has the V-like extension upside down is Terminal 2. And then the next three sections that extend to the right are Terminal 3. And then to the lower right is Terminal 5. But we can take a look at these in more detail. Here's Terminal 1. Terminal 1 has two concourses, concourses B and C. There's approximately 14.6 million enplanements in Terminal 1 with the major carriers of Lufthansa and United Airlines. Terminal 2 has two concourses, E and F, and there are approximately 6.7 million enplanements with major carriers are Air Canada, Delta, and United Airlines. Terminal 3 has four concourses. From the lower right to the left, we have concourses G, H, K, and L, and there are approximately 17.4 million enplanements. Major carriers include Air Alaska, American Airlines, Iberia, Japan Airlines, and Spirit Airlines. Moving on to Terminal 5, it has one concourse, Concourse M. Terminal 5 has a wide variety of domestic and international carriers flying to 6 of the 7 continents around the world. There are approximately 3.4 million enplanements, and the major air carriers include Aer Lingus, Alitalia, Emirates, Etihad, Finnair, Korean Air, Southwest Airlines, and Frontier. Now we will move on to our concessions program. Airport concessions at O'Hare and Midway are broken down into 6 categories. These categories include food and beverage, which entail branded and non-branded entities, and also includes airport and local and national brands. The second category is the specialty retail category, and it entails brands and concepts that supply things such as electronics, apparel, and books. Next, we have the news and gift category, which includes entities for souvenirs and convenience items. We have service category, which includes automated retail, ATMs, spa and lounge locations, and foreign currency. The duty-free category entails brands that supply things such as perfumes, jewelry, and confections. And last, we have the advertising category, which entails our indoor and outdoor advertising. This next slide is a concessions performance breakdown by the categories that I just spoke of. It lists the total number of stores per category, the total amount of square footage, and sales figures for 2019 and 2020. As you can see, the impact of COVID affected sales drastically for 2020, but we have seen an increase in 2021, and we look for more increase going into 2022. This next slide represents all 3 terminals and Terminal 5, the 3 terminals, and where each concession is located in Terminals 1, 2, and 3. If you take a look at the color-coded legend on the left, you can gauge where each concession is by category and where they're located in the terminal. One of the first things you may notice are the number of national brands such as McDonald's or Starbucks that, as you can see, are located in almost every terminal. The next couple of slides are some pictures of different brands of services located here at O'Hare. Here's a few in Terminal 1 of food and beverage locations and a specialty retail location right there with Johnston & Murphy. The next slide, you have food and beverage locations as well. You have a specialty retail location as well as a news and gifts location with Hudson there at the bottom right. In Terminal 3, here are more food and beverage locations. You see a service location, and then with the spa, and then you see some of the advertising that we've had with the Xfinity there in the T3 food court. Here in Terminal 5, it used to be classified as our international terminal, but we have since added domestic flights with Southwest Airlines, Frontier, and we have Delta Airlines coming in 2022. You can still see the same color-coded legend on the right-hand side this time, where you can gauge where each concession by category is located. That center picture right there is our arrivals level, and on the left and the bottom is the departure level. We'll go to a couple more slides in Terminal 5. You'll see here is our checkpoint area, which has kind of been, we've added more lanes to that checkpoint area and a little different configuration. They're about 95% complete with that. And then you see our duty-free location here at the right. In the next couple of slides, you'll see our food court and food and beverage locations here and on the next slide. Okay. Next, you will hear from our Assistant Commissioner, Glenn Wisniewski, with O'Hare 21.
Thank you, Mark. So back in 2018, we opened up what was called what is the Multi-Modal facility. And it's a convergence of all of, it's the ATS, which is the airport transportation system, all of the local busing that goes out to the suburbs and to various, other counties and states. And it's basically, it houses all of our rental car units. So this facility was probably the inauguration of our TAPS program, which I'll show you a little bit more. But here is an interior shot of the multimodal facility, and you can see the Conracs there, which are the rental car agencies, and it's a very modernized look. And it sort of gives you a glimpse of what we're going to be showing into our look ahead, which is ORD 21. So what you have here in front of you, which is highlighted in the white, the hot white, is our future build outs for our terminal expansion. So after 20 years, we are winding down and we've completed 6 parallel runways. That will enable us to bring in over 110 million passengers. So with that completion, now our endeavor is going into the build out of the terminals and the expansions. So the multimodal facility was the first one to come online, and I'll take you from left to right. We have Satellite 2 and Satellite 1, which are parallel to, or they'll run perpendicular and parallel to Terminal 1, Concourse A, Concourse B and C. And that's an extension of United Airlines. And then as we move past Satellite 1, we come across the O'Hare Global Terminal. And that's going to be the big flagship terminal. Terminal 2 was the original building when O'Hare was constructed 50 plus years ago. I believe it's about 58 years ago. That will be coming down, and we're going to inaugurate it then with the OGT. And then moving up into the top, there was an expansion to the L Concourse, and that will be additionally expanded by next year. And that came online about 2 years ago also. And then all the way down to the right is the Terminal 5 expansion, which is under construction right now. And I'll give you a better look with this next slide, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry, but before we get to Terminal 5, this is a close-up of the O'Hare Global Terminal. So you can, the design, it was a competitive design program that was put out. There were 5 or 6 architects firms that did submit drawings, and this design was the winning design, and it was by Jeannie Gang, the architect from Chicago. So here's a close-up of Terminal 5, and if you notice all the way on the right, there is an expansion, and with the pavilion, that will be coming online within the next 2 months. You can see what we have planned for Terminal 5 is a new hotel, a garage. We're going to expand the roadway, and then we're bringing on 6 new gates on the east, which is the bright white at the bottom right hand. So here is another look of the new pavilion and the extension of Terminal 5. It has a big pavilion at the end. Terminal 5, we took the word international out of Terminal 5 about 3 years ago because, as Mark stated, we started docking domestic flights, and our newest domestic carrier has been Southwest, which came in last February. But the majority of the airlines there are foreign flagship airlines. Here's another view of the pavilion looking northwest. And then here's some interior shots of that new section on the east side that will be completed in 2022. And it's going to be opening, probably portions of it will start opening this upcoming spring. And now I'll turn it over to Drew Homick, who will talk about Midway International Airport.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Glenn. So we will take it and I'll give you a little bit of overview right now on the operations at Midway Airport. So Midway is the largest, is a leading airport for point-to-point service in the United States. And prior to COVID in 2019, it had nearly 22 million passengers and serviced 79 destinations. The total number of carriers at Midway is stable. Now all the carriers are back and operating at Midway, which is good to see after the post sort of COVID era. And in Q2 of 2021, Midway had direct flights to 72 US destinations and 10 international destinations. Southwest Airlines represents over 90% of the capacity and operations at Midway currently. And then as of July 2021, we saw the passengers coming through our TSA checkpoint was about 90% compared to the passengers that were coming through in 2019, which is good to see people are traveling again. As mentioned, these are the 6 carriers, so all of them are back and operating, and Southwest being the largest one, having over 90% of the market share at Midway Airport. The Midway Modernization Program, or the MMP, this is a $333 million program that was invested and spent over the nearly 2 decades. This included 3 marquee projects, 2 of which are substantially complete. That's the passenger security checkpoint expansion. So anybody who's traveled through Midway will notice it's a new security bridge. It's about 50,000 square feet over Cicero Avenue. Very expansive, very pretty new security bridge that you enter into Midway Airport. And then the terminal parking garage enhancements. So did a lot of enhancements to the garage itself, to automated ticketing when you're entering and leaving the garage, and then enhancements to a lot of the elevators that service that location. And then one of the last remaining projects that's currently under development is our Concessions redevelopment program. And we'll get into more detail about that right now. So the Concessions redevelopment program at Midway, this was back in 2015. We put out an RFP and this went into bidding, and Midway Partnership is the entity. This is a joint venture. They're a developer and operator that won that award. And then starting in July of 2017, that entity, Midway Partnership, took over all of the concessions at Midway Airport. So Midway Partnership is investing $75 million to renovate and expand all portions of the concessions program, everything from specialty retail to news and gifts, food and beverage, and amenities. And currently, this program is bolstering over 56% ACDBE, which is our Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, which is the highest in the nation. So we're very proud of that. That means a majority of the operators at Midway Airport are participating in the ACDBE program, a lot of local small businesses. The plans and the continued expansion and redevelopment, we plan to double the permanent jobs from 700 to nearly 1,400. And the footprint of the concessions program will go be nearly over 70,000 square feet. And the number of stores and units will go from 47 to over 70. We're also happy to, about last year, we introduced a mobile food ordering service at Midway. So this gives customers the opportunity to order ahead for pickup at the majority of our food and beverage locations, or we have the option to deliver that to your gate for a fee. And today we've constructed we have constructed 30 new concession units, which we'll take a look at in the next slide. No, we're actually going to talk about sales first. This is similar to the breakdown that Mark described earlier. This shows the concession sales from 2019 and 2020. So nearly 70% of the sales are for food and beverage, and the other 30% are in our retail and services department. So as you can see, there was definitely a drop in 2020, but as Mark said, sales look much stronger this year in 2021 and will continue to improve in 2022. This shows the complete redevelopment. So this is what the projected redevelopment will look like once it's completed. And the next slide will show a little bit about what's actually completed to date. So these are the 30 new locations that have been built beginning in 2018. And then we had our latest opening was about 4 months ago, and that was Cafe de Cartes, which is a local small business ACDBE operator in our baggage claim area. So we've got 22 brands that are new. We have 22 brands that are new to the airport. And these are a couple of the pictures throughout the airport. Sarah's Candy's another small operator here in Chicago. Hubbard Inn and Harry Carey's are two locations that are actually built out in the middle of the concourse. So those used to be moving walkways that were built into restaurants. And then here at the end, these are the opportunities to partner with Midway Partnership. So anything from design and construction services to supplies and other services. So I highly recommend, if anybody's interested, to visit midwaypartnership.com to get in contact with them. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Michael Stein, who's going to take you through the process of operating a concession.
Good morning, my name is Michael Stein. I'm Project Administrator for CDA. I'll be explaining the process to operate a concession here at the airport. Companies have several ways to operate as a concessionaire. Option 1, you can operate as a single operator. This is where you lease space directly from the airport. Option 2 is called a joint venture. This is where a company forms a partnership with another company to lease and operate a concession. Option 3 is where you operate as a subtenant. This is where your company leases from a larger concessionaire and operates as its subtenant. Next, you need to determine how you would operate. Option 1, you can operate under a franchise agreement with companies like McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. Option 2, you can enter into a license agreement with brands like a Harry Carey's or Publican. Option 3, you can operate as a regional or local company where you bring a neighborhood favorite like Nuts on Clark or Berghoff here to the airports. And option 4, you can operate as your own unique airport concept that exists only at the airport, like Ice Bar and Cubs Bar and Grill. This next slide identifies the steps you could take to become a concessionaire. First, CDA will identify a location that's available for lease. Next, CDA will issue a request for proposal or an RFP. Then respondents will prepare and properly submit their proposals. CDA will then evaluate their responses and select a concessionaire. The then selected concessionaire and CDA will finalize the lease. CDA would then seek approval from City Council. Once approved, the concessionaire submits construction plans for review and approval. Then the concessionaire completes the construction and opens for business at the airport. The goals of our concession program are to optimize revenues at the airports and the local economy, maximize ACDBE participation, provide opportunities for local brands and local operators, provide high-quality products and services, promote high-quality facility designs, and also promote environmental sustainability, increase the offerings, the variety of offerings at the airport, showcase the character of Chicago to the traveling public, and provide first-class customer service and fair pricing to the traveling public and to the employees who work at the airports. The next slide, you need to determine what hours of operation you want to operate under. You have to prepare yourself to complying with all the badging and security regulations at the airport. You need to think about how you're going to get your workforce here to the airport. They have to take in consideration the cost for using employee parking or public transportation. And then you have to really work through logistics to make sure you're most efficiently and effectively getting your goods in, storing them, and then getting the trash and recyclables out. Yolanda will be up next talking about the elements of a proposal.
Thank you, Michael, for that. Next, we will talk about the elements of a response to a request for proposal or an RFP. Now, a response to a request for proposals can be very detailed, as you can see from this extensive list of proposal elements. The cover letter should identify the RFP to which you are submitting a proposal. Experience and qualifications should tell us the story as to why you are qualified to operate a concession at O'Hare or Midway International Airports. Telling your story, espousing your expertise in the area in which you are proposing. The selection committee will pay close attention to the management plan, development plan, ACDBE participation plan, your references, your business information, and financial statements when evaluating your submitted proposal. The selection committee wants to be certain that the proposed concession entrant has the wherewithal to operate in the high volume, fast-paced airport environment. Exceptions relate to specific items in the license agreement that you request to be changed, rephrased, or omitted. Next slide, please. Submitting a proposal. The selection committee will also evaluate if the potential concession entrants meet the minimum qualifications. At a minimum, the potential concession entrant must have a specific number of years of experience operating the concept in which they are proposing to operate at the airport, with a minimum amount of average sales receipts during a specific period. This information is also used to gauge the potential concession entrant's ability to meet the capital improvement costs associated with operating a concession in an airport environment. And of course, the selection committee will also look closely at your ACDBE plan to ensure that CFR 49 Part 23 goal requirements are also being met, because the ACDBE program is a federally regulated program by the Federal Aviation Administration. The ACDBE goal will be stated in the RFP and is required to be met in full or by demonstrating good faith efforts that the goal cannot be met. Next slide. Next, we'll talk about rents and fees. This is an example of compensation to the city. Keep in mind that bids are not awarded to the highest bidder, and these fees are more than likely to be stated in the RFP, either as a range or as a set amount. The base rent rate per square foot will escalate at 3% each year. For example, if the base rent in 2021 is $50 per square foot, then the base rent in 2022 will be $50 plus $1.50, which is 3% of $50, or $51.50 for base rent for the year 2022. The license fee is the greater of the percentage fee or the minimum annual guarantee fee. We will see an example of that in a later slide. The marketing fee is 0.5% of gross sales, and the central distribution fee will be determined based on facility costs, but will generally be 1 to 2% of gross sales. At this time, there is no distribution center at O'Hare, but it is under consideration. Next slide. Here are the basic terms and fees associated with multiple types of concepts that one can operate at the airport. The terms are specific to allow for the amortization of the build-out costs over the estimated useful life of other improvements installed at build-out as well. As you see here, there is a range for the proposed percentage rent. And remember, the contract is not awarded to the highest bidder. Next slide. Here are the basic terms and fees associated with the concept categories. Once again, the terms are specific to allow for the amortization of the build-out cost and over the estimated useful life of other improvements. And keep in mind, there is a range for the proposed percentage rents, so the contract is not awarded to the highest bidder. I do want to keep emphasizing that, because the contract is not awarded to the highest bidder. Next slide. Here's an example of the minimum annual guarantee fee. Now, the MAG is usually set in the RFP, and the percentage fee is usually stated as a range. When making the decision on how much of your revenue you are willing to share, you must first consider that if you make $0, you still must pay the minimum annual guarantee fee, and not the lesser of the percentage fee and the MAG. Take, for instance, this example. If the percentage fee is less than the MAG is still due as payment. If you exceed the MAG, then the greater amount is due as payment. Next slide. Now, these are other considerations when considering compensation for the operation of a concession at the airport. And these considerations include leasehold taxes, individually metered utilities, your security deposit, which is equal to 6 months of the minimum annual guarantee fee, and of course, build-out costs, which can be upwards of $1,000 per square foot of leased space. So the airports have developed a strict value pricing strategy. And what this strategy does is ensures that prices at the airports will not exceed the average prices charged in downtown Chicago. The airports have also developed a strict sustainability strategy that each concession operator must adopt and include in their day-to-day operations. Green initiatives include the reduction in the use of plastics and styrofoam, with those plastic and styrofoam products being replaced by green compostable items to ensure a healthy experience for the passenger, the employee, and the environment. A firm is considered to be an ACDBE firm. I know a lot of you have that question. What exactly is an airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise? Well, that firm is considered to be an ACDBE firm if it meets the criteria of being 51% owned and managed by a socially and economically disadvantaged individual. The ACDBE goal is also set in the RFP, and an ACDBE plan must be included with the proposal. The ACDBE certified firm must be certified at the time of the proposal submittal, or the proposal may be marked non-responsive if good faith efforts have not been demonstrated to achieve the ACDBE goal set in the RFP. Next slide. The Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program is subject to federal regulations by the FAA. An ACDBE goal is established for each request for proposal. The goal must be fulfilled by a concessionaire through several ways, which includes direct ownership. So an ACDBE firm can bid on their own or can partner through a joint venture partnership or subcontracts. ACDBE goals can also be fulfilled through the purchase of goods and services. And remember, the proposal will be deemed non-responsive because the ACDBE section of the proposal is pass or fail. The respondent must either satisfy the goal as stated in the RFP or must show good faith efforts as to why the goal cannot be satisfied. Next slide. For more information on how to become certified, please visit the City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services website or the Illinois Department of Transportation's website using these links. The Department of Procurement Services also holds a quarterly workshop on how to become certified. Here is some key information regarding RFPs. So if you would like to be notified of upcoming RFPs, please be sure to sign up for the CDA web alerts, and you will be among the first businesses to learn about the RFP release. Proposals are typically due 90 days after posting, but be sure to sign up for the CDA web alerts because this time period can be variable. So please stay aware of the due date and time as changes may occur. A pre-proposal meeting will generally take place shortly after the RFP is posted. Be sure to attend this meeting, which will provide additional information that may not be stated in the proposal. The pre-proposal meeting may also allow for tours of the proposed spaces. The RFP will specify a deadline for the submission of questions, and all questions must be submitted in writing, and answers will be provided in an addendum to the RFP. Next, learn more about additional resources that are available to you through the Airport Minority Advisory Council, which is the only nonprofit organization that is dedicated to the inclusion of minorities and women in airport contracting. The other are industry-specific organizations that can help you navigate the concessions arena. The Chicago Department of Aviation link, www.flychicago.com, is a must. It contains information about both O'Hare and Midway airports as it pertains to flights, terminal maps, and bids and contracts. Once again, please be sure to sign up for our CDA web alerts to be notified on bid packages, pre-bid conferences, upcoming concessionaire workshops, symposiums, and other events, as well as the O'Hare 2021 improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda, and thank you all for joining us today. This now concludes the presentation of how to open a concession at O'Hare and Midway International Airports. We would like to thank our partners, BACP Commissioner Ken Meyer and his fabulous staff for participating and hosting our session today and throughout 2021. And on behalf of Mayor Lightfoot, Chicago Department of Aviation Commissioner Jamie Rhee, and the entire concessions department, we thank you all for joining us this morning. We hope this presentation was informative. Have a happy and safe holiday season, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you for the great presentation. There are a few questions that came in. I'm going to read them out, and if you guys can please respond. Do you need a City of Chicago license if you are a vendor in the airport? Are you covered under the airport?
No, you would need a specific license under your entity. Your business entity would have to acquire a separate business license.
Great. Can you assist with identifying the available concession locations? How many of the 30 new concessions at Midway are available?
So actually, as part of Midway Partnership, who won the RFP, that's a joint venture. All of the locations were actually pre-selected, those operators and those brands, as part of their RFP and their leasing contract. So those 30 locations that we showed you, the new ones that were built out, they have operators. But if there are any opportunities in the future, I would recommend going to midwaypartnership.com and getting in contact with Midway Partnership to ask if there's any opportunities in the future for partnering up with them.
Great, thank you. What happens if you had a business in the past, but not anymore? How can you prove? Can you just send the past statements?
So if you're applying for an RFP and you had a previous business in the past 5 years, it would be a viable, it would be for our category in which we grade past experience, the viability would be acceptable if it was within the last 5 years with your application for an RFP.
Okay, thank you. How much money do you need to have to fill the requirements?
So usually with a request for proposal, there is the largest cost is the development costs. So, and that would be the build out of your particular proposed establishment if you were selected through the RFP process. And the construction rate conservatively at O'Hare is about $600 to $700 a square foot. And then of course there's costs to running your business and working capital.
Okay, great. Does CDOA practice social equity?
So I would like to learn more about what social equity is for Lamel. not quite sure exactly what the question is. We do have a very prominent ACDBE participation rate, as well as one of the highest airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise goals in the nation. Now, if social meaning equitable for all, absolutely, we believe in that. That is one of the main focuses of our commissioner, to make sure that our opportunities are equitable for all.
And also with that, in 2019, we were recognized by the FAA as having the most, we were awarded the top ACDBE program in North America for airports.
Great,
That
thank
is
you.
correct.
Can a new business become a vendor?
Absolutely. A new business can become a vendor for an existing concessionaire that's already operating here. However, as we had mentioned before, there is a minimum experience requirement to operate the business on your own.
Okay, great. I am interested in opening a kiosk in Terminal 5 before security. Do I have to wait for an RFP? Or can I just inquire and submit a proposal?
So you could, so Terminal 5 currently is managed by URW, and that is a development group that manages the concessions program. So what you could do is submit an inquiry directly to them, and Geraldine, I could get you the key contact just so that they could reach out to the point of contact at URW for that particular person.
Okay, great. Actually, the person who asked the question could email bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org, and then I'll get that information to you.
Okay, good.
Next question is, what's the rationale for 3 years minimum requirement before being considered for operations in the airports?
Well, the airport is a dynamic environment. It's a 24/7 operation, and the amount of footfall is very intense, more so than on the street level. And so with that, it would not do us justice to have someone just starting out as, to start out their business fresh at the airport. So that's why we require the experience. But with that, we are looking into, and there will be more in the future, of possible incubator programs, and we're all about not discouraging someone without any experience from entering the airport environment. But with our ACDBE program, if you were to get certified as an ACDBE, that program allows you to get certified as a startup. So I would really recommend that you look into that. And then there is so many matchmaking and so many events that we do that we could put you, or there will be an abundance of contacts out there in which you can sort of get your feet wet and get to know the airport environment as a possible joint venture partner or a vendor who might provide goods and services. So you're not discounted, but there are ways. And so we really recommend you get the ACDBE. And once you get the certification, and that certification, we'll make available this particular deck. And as Yolanda talked about, there's some resources, and the application is on the City of Chicago Procurement Services website.
Great, thank you. Next question. How many available concessions are at O'Hare Airport? And when is the next proposal opening?
So there are about 250 actual various locations. And that's everything from the kiosk to a sit-down restaurant. In 2021, we had an RFP that went out for 10,000 square feet for food and beverage, retail, and travel essentials. The deadline for that was this past October. We're evaluating those now. The next RFP, there will be multiple RFPs coming out in 2022 in the first quarter. It'll be a very aggressive year. And then also in 2023, but 2022 is a very pivotal year because there is a need for new concessionaires as we wind down the current agreements and as we do our build out with the terminal expansion. So the best way to keep abreast on any RFP is to go to flychicago.com, and at the bottom of the landing page, you can sign up for our web alerts. And our web alerts are usually the first public notice of any RFP that is initiated by us.
Great, thank you. Next question. Can you assist us in locating more information on subleasing?
Well, there are no subleases available. I'm unsure as to the question, simply because there are opportunities for a business to cooperate with and form a partnership with an existing concessionaire. There is also the ability to form a joint venture to bid on an RFP. And there is an opportunity when you are bidding to bid as a sub entity operating your own concession. So that would generally happen at the onset of the bid process with the relationships that you form as a joint venture or as a partner.
Great, thank you. How much weight does the ACDBE carry in the proposal process? Is it a major factor?
Yeah, yes, it is. So right now, we've established a baseline of about 32 to anything over 30% is basically our requirements. And with the most recent RFPs, we've been asking for 32+% participation. The FAA asks for 10% participation, but we exceed that goal. We basically triple it plus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very big component of our program.
Great, thank you. Does capital and experience in other businesses suffice for a new business to open a kiosk?
You're saying capital? Could you read the question? Does capital and experience in other businesses?
Does capital and experience in other businesses suffice for a new business? Maybe for a new business to open a kiosk?
Okay, for a new business to open a kiosk.
Well, I guess it would depend on that particular experience. We would look at it. And if you're an ACDBE or getting your ACDBE, like I said previously, there is no need to have specific background and experience, but it's lenient toward a startup who has not had a major business, but is getting their experience. Yeah, and they're and they want to get established as a standalone company. So I would say yes to that.
Yes.
I mean, we would consider it.
I would like to add that when being certified as an ACDBE, and when you're bidding on a specific type of concept, that your experience be in those areas in which you are becoming certified and in which you are proposing for a specific concept. That does add a lot of value. Like Glenn says, we don't want to set an operator up for failure if they're planning to start something fresh in an airport environment just because of the nature of operating in an airport. So I would definitely err on the side of caution of creating a new business that you don't have experience in to bring it to the airport environment.
Great, thank you so much. So that is all the questions that we have this morning. I want to thank all the presenters, fantastic information. Thank all the attendees for joining us and wishing everyone a safe and happy weekend.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
holiday.